How long have you been married, and what is your biggest piece of advice for married couples? Hello friends, and welcome to the Truth Booth. I drew a question out of the pot for Ask Me Tuesday, and this is what it said. Okay, how long have I been married? That's an easy one to answer. 43 years. 43 years, almost 44 in just a couple of months. What is the biggest piece of advice I would give to married couples? I know. The biggest piece of advice I would give to married couples is the biggest and greatest comment that Jesus gave us when he was asked, what is the greatest commandment? And it's in the book of Matthew. And there's a few verses there that say, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. There's really not a better or more wise word of wisdom to give to married couples. And if we think about this and apply this to our life, it's going to be life-giving. So I would say that that is just the battle of my life, is to do those two things, not only in my life with everybody else, but particularly in my marriage. So loving God with all my heart, soul, mind, and strength, that is something that every single day we should be focusing on, concentrating on, putting our mind to, setting our eyes to, asking God's wisdom for, and his help with, is loving him with all my heart, soul, mind, and strength. That's something that means daily devotion to him. That means daily giving to him. That means daily learning who he is and who I am, and usually who he is and who I'm not. That is just letting God permeate your life. And hopefully the older you get, the more you are letting God permeate your life, drown your life with himself. Well, that's number one. And number two takes it a step further and says, love your neighbor as yourself. Well, if you've been married very long, you know that sometimes the hardest neighbor to love is your spouse. And if you're newly married, I know that sounds ridiculous, but I'm telling you, give it a little bit of time, and there's going to be days, weeks, or even months that it's really difficult to love your spouse as much as you love yourself. Now, I know so many people are going to be saying like, oh, right, so I have to spend time learning to love myself so that I'll be able to love my neighbor or be able to love my spouse. Well, you need to know that Jesus, when he's speaking this, that's not what he's talking about, and that's a whole other video. You have a really wrong perception of things if you think that. The assumption in this is that we love ourselves. And even when you're the most depressed and you're the most down in the dumps and you feel the worst, you really still love yourself, because usually our thoughts are filled during those times of what we're not, or what we're not doing, or what we should have, or what we wish we could have, or how other people are treating us, or how much we're just a burden to everybody. Me, self. So even when we feel our worst, we are worried about ourselves, right? And if we took that worry about ourselves and that thinking about ourselves and the way things come at us and the way that we come at others, if we took that and applied that to how we treat others and gave more time, or even just as much time, focusing on loving our neighbor, loving our spouse, I think we would see miracles happen. Now, obviously, I always have to say this, obviously, please know, I am not talking about being in an abusive situation and just going ahead and letting it go because really I'm supposed to love this person enough to let them abuse me in any way. That is not true. That's when you need to seek help. That's when you need to bring somebody else into the conversation, and there needs to be accountability of that other person. I'm not talking about that. I am talking about our daily living and how we really do live to please ourselves so much. And that if we applied that to those that are around us, I think that our life would change drastically. And you can take it from me, the little old lady with the gray hair, that as I do that, things change, my circumstances change, my heart changes towards other people. That's what changes my circumstances, right? So loving God first, because loving Him is the only place that you're going to get that kind of love to love your neighbor and love your spouse. You're not going to be able to magically conjure that up. It might work for a moment, for a day, maybe a week, maybe a month, maybe, but where we get filled with that love is from God. So we love God with everything in our being. And then we spill that love out by loving our spouse as much or more than we love ourselves. So if you can get that buried into your brain and stop thinking about what you need from your spouse, what they should be giving to you, your expectations for them, and just start pouring a love out on them and loving them as you want to be loved, things are going to change. So that would be my biggest piece of advice. So I know it's kind of simple, but profound, because everything in the Bible is profound. It's profound. Even though it sounds simple, it is a profound truth. And here is another one. So that's my biggest piece of advice to married couples, are those two greatest commandments that we find in Matthew. And so apply it, and God's going to bring such joy into your life and into your heart. Thanks for asking that question, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.